If I only get your attention for like maybe 10 seconds, just know that this movie was exactly what I was afraid that the original Venom movie was going to be.
This.
You dumb. That's not a hunt. It just scared the piss out of me again.
Again?
Oh,
Morbius. Morbius is directed by Daniel Espinosa, stars Jared Leto as Dr. Michael Morbius, and has Matt Smith as what is essentially just Milo. You don't need to know his actual name. And Adria Arjona, I hope I'm saying that right, as Martine. And this is about the vampire associated with Spider-Man. That's about all you need to know about the plot of this movie. The trailer alone gives away the entire plot. And that is to say that there really is no giant plot. If you can think of a movie, a superhero movie, if you can think of a superhero movie in the last like 10 years where the villain is essentially the exact same as the hero, that is this movie. All wrapped up in a convenient little origin story. This movie is very boring. That is the worst part. This movie is so boring. I wanted nothing more than for this movie to actually start ramping up and start doing something. Give me something that I actually cared about. Because at no point, besides the fact that it's associated with Spider-Man, did I care about any of these characters even a little bit. They could have all died for all I cared. It's truly upsetting because I feel like Morbius is one of those Spider-Man characters that doesn't get enough love. He really doesn't. The best representation that I've seen of Morbius was from the cartoon in like the early 2000s, maybe even 1990s. Okay? It's the one where the electric guitar goes that crap, okay? That his portrayal in that show was not only like the last time we've probably seen him, but it was far better. I took a bunch of notes, okay? And I just want to go over, like line by line, what actually happens in this film. Trying to avoid spoilers, of course. Okay, first of all, this is the first thing I noticed, and probably was the major tipping point. Like, your first little hint as to what is to come. Because the entire beginning of this movie is just terrible. Okay? I did not like, from like the first time we see the logo of Morbius, I did not like it. The logo for Morbius sucks. I do not like. I don't know if they were going for like a 1990s or 1980s feel or anything, but the fact that it just looks so bland and so like dumb, I did not like it. The opening scene where we first see like what is going to happen to Morbius, like the very beginning. It's essentially the only scene anyone remembers from the trailer. It's the very beginning. It is so bad. It is so bad. The dialogue is cringe, and 90% of it in this like 3-minute scene is not. It's like all exposition, all of it. I was actually offended the fact that they immediately threw us into a scene with like nothing but exposition. That killed me. And what's funny is it actually gets worse. Because the following scene is essentially a flashback, and it is not any better. The dialogue gets worse. It's twice as cringe. The acting in the scene sucks, and you don't. Once again, it doesn't give you anything to care about, so it's just boring. And it just like because the opening is so like horrible, the rest of the movie gives you like no reason to actually give a shit about any of these characters. And so you're just, like, left bored the entire movie. I don't get it. Like, what were they thinking? One of the only times I actually laughed in the movie was specifically when Matt Smith looks at Jared Leto and he's like, "Oh, the day you die, bruv." Oh, goodness. Oh, my God. My next issue is the fact that these guys, like, they go on to this journey to have a experiment, essentially. And for whatever reason, like, I understand, like, why they brought them, but it's the fact that the guys that they brought immediately start shooting. I didn't understand it at all. They brought you specifically for one thing, and at the first sign that something's going wrong, you start shooting at motherfuckers. Why? Why? Did anyone think that through? Did anyone think that through? What I'm about to say is probably the most critical part of this entire review, because right after they start shooting, we're granted the first action scene of the film. And the problem with this action scene is that it's neat, I guess. If you like that sort of thing, you might like it. It's eh. But the problem lies in the fact that even though it might be cool in some areas, you don't care. There's no reason to care. It's just empty violence for, like, almost no reason. Almost. They do give a reason. It's not a great reason. It's just so boring. I understand why they did it, because it would be really weird to just casually lead up to it. But I think I would have actually rathered this happen than seeing Morbius immediately start walking. Like, with no issue whatsoever. And he doesn't really have an issue until he needs more blood. And no, that is not a spoiler. If you know Morbius at all, you know that he is a vampire. That's his character. That's what he is. That's his entire personality. It's not a spoiler. He needs blood. He doesn't start having issues walking again until he needs more blood. Which is really weird. The fact that he immediately can start walking like a normal motherfucker. The villain of this movie. I don't want to give away who it is specifically, because that might actually be a spoiler. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not even sure anyone's actually going to care about this, except for, like, hardcore Morbius fans. But even then, like, seeing this review and getting it spoiled is not going to be the biggest disappointment. But the villain of the story, for whatever reason, immediately just picks a fight with him. For almost no reason. None whatsoever. It actually, like, came out of left field, and I did not like it at all. There was no build up to it. There was no reason for it. I did not like why these guys started fighting, and they didn't build up to a better reason either. I do like the scene where Morbius finds a lair to actually start working from, but just like the other scene, the beginning fight scene, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. It's all boring. It's just so boring because it's just scene after scene of nothing that actually matters and no reason to actually give a crap about any of these characters. It's truly unfortunate, and it's just a repeating thing throughout the entire movie. I also forgot for a good minute that the Nicholas caregiver guy was even in the film. There's a huge chunk of the film where he's just not seen anymore. Like, you will probably forget about... I don't even think it's the only character you forget about. But there are going to be large chunks where you're just like, oh, it's that guy again. Haven't seen him in a minute. Also with the villain, he sucks. I'm sorry, but he is a very, very poorly written character. Everything he does makes no sense. There's no reason for them to really be fighting until later on. He does give him a reason, but the fact that he even started at all makes no sense. And it's actually just incredibly childish is what it is. Like, I've not seen a villain so poorly written in quite some time. In regards to, like, the CGI, special effects and everything in the movie, I'm like 50-50 on it. There are some, like, cool scenes of them doing vampire stuff, but most of the flying I didn't like, except for, like, towards the end. There are some, like, speed up and slow down shots. The one with the bullet kind of worked, but also kind of not. It comes out of left field too much for me to really enjoy it, and doesn't last very long either. It's not like extended shots of them like moving really slowly. It's just like one quick thing and then right back to super speed. And the super speed doesn't even look good. It really doesn't. And it also makes no sense for them to have super speed either. Like, I could somewhat understand the flying, even though I think Stan Lee would probably have a fucking heart attack in his grave if he saw this movie. But I think the flying sort of makes more sense. The sonar makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is the fact that every piece of their body that has become, like, more bat-like, they can just retract it at any time. They have these like little nerves in their ears that just come out whenever they want to use it. Or their claws whenever they want to stab somebody or slash them. They just retract back into their body. But you don't even see them retract. They just like disappear. Like, I actually genuinely hated seeing that. I think the look of the vampires needed a lot of work. This was not it. Also, some of the fights in this movie, like, I hear this criticism with other movies by other reviewers a lot, but sometimes I don't quite understand what they mean. But when I say that there are fight scenes in this movie where you genuinely will not be able to tell what's going on, I absolutely mean it from the bottom of my heart. There are moments where things are either moving or there's just colors flashing and crap where you will have no clue what is happening. And then, like, it'll just swap frames or something, and one guy will end up at the other side of the screen for, like, no reason. It makes no sense. I'm telling you, I don't like this. I think my favorite part about this film is the fact that, like, their costumes and the way they look at the very end was actually kind of cool. It did remind me of, like, Morbius's original outfit, except, like, more stylized. I really like the purple, like, lining or whatever he was wearing. I genuinely liked that. But everything else about the effects throughout the entire movie, just no. Please. And if you are going to make a sequel, please do better. I really hope you don't make a sequel, to be honest, because I don't think Morbius needs one. But if you are going to make a sequel, please work on the effects. I did not enjoy these at all, not even a little bit. Also, this movie is particularly unfunny. Like, so much so that I distinctly remember the, like, only time that I actually, like, laughed out loud was not even because of the movie. It was because there was a kid behind me that heard a line in the movie where he was like, "I'm sorry." And the kid immediately replied with, "No, you're not." Oh, it was so good. I liked it. Also, the bats at the very end made no sense. I hated everything about it. Why were there a billion bats in, like, the streets of New York? It made no sense. None whatsoever. I didn't like it. They didn't need to be there. They could have actually done more with that scene than just having a, like, tornado of bats at the end. No. Please. How did that idea get greenlit? I don't get it. However, I will say that I think the best decision that was made during this film was actually during the last fight scene, because, again, without spoiling anything, the last fight scene actually wasn't that big. it was actually quite short, and there wasn't a whole lot of actual fighting. And I actually thoroughly enjoyed that, because it wasn't the type of story that I felt like needed a huge fight scene at the end. I really liked how what Morbius does, like, impacts the story as a whole, and it really gives you the sense that he is trying and he actually cares a lot. One final thing about this movie is the post-credit scene. I absolutely hated this post-credit scene, and it needs to die in a fire. This was the actually, like, most offensive thing about the entire film. Why? Like, whoever made that decision to not only include this person, but to set it up the way that they did, I think they need to be fired. That was such a horrid decision. Oh my god. But overall, like, I can't honestly recommend this movie. I don't think that even Morbius fans are actually going to enjoy this. I really do feel for anyone who, like, for anyone that feels like this is their favorite character, because he does deserve better. I wish he had better, and it's not that I don't want another Morbius movie, I don't want a sequel to this one, because it doesn't feel like this character has anything going for him. Like, if I was to see Morbius again, I would like to see him either in, like, an X-Men setting, a Spider-Man setting, or even, like, a Blade setting. Any one of those would have been better. Blade would have probably been the best villain for this movie. I think that would have been insanely cool for Blade to, like, come out of nowhere and start fighting Morbius just because he's a vampire. And then you find out, like, at the end, oh, actually Blade is a good guy, and he gets his own movie after that. That would have been... But they didn't do anything nearly that cool, and I don't think they're going to with the sequel. And for that reason, not only am I not going to recommend this movie, but I really hope that they don't make a sequel to this movie either. Overall, it is just insanely boring, and I think I am going to put this in the bad category. I don't want to put it in terrible, because I think there was a, like, speck of effort put into this movie, just not so much that I thought it was alright. I do genuinely think that this is a bad movie. I wish he had gotten better. It makes me so sad that he didn't. Hey there. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a comment down below and let me know. If you really enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, as it really helps me out. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you later. Goodbye.